All right, Wonder Year fan or the Wonder Year fans. Hope everybody's doing well. Look, I know this video is a bit late considering the next new episode is coming up in a couple of days, but yeah, better late than never, right? Well, I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed the pilot of the Wonder Years. I thought it was pretty well done. I think it deserves a solid score of an 8 out of 10. Before getting into it further, make sure you take a moment to hit the thumbs up button to show you like the video. Hit subscribe as we close in on 200,000 subscribers. Hit the bell notification icon and select all. That way you don't miss out whenever I post content on the channel. And follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. So appropriately, the pilot episode is entitled Pilot. So, if you watch the trailer, and remember I did the breakdown last week, the first few minutes of the episode really follow the dialogue from the trailer to a T. Don Cheadle as older Dean is doing the narration. And to be completely honest, even if you never watched the original Wonder Years, but you watched Everybody Hates Chris, it's basically the same thing. I mean, even if this series never existed, the 2021 reboot, Everybody Hates Chris was kind of the unofficial black variation of the Wonder Years series, where you have a a person or young boy growing up in their specific decade, and then the older version of themselves was narrating the actual events of what was going on in their past. And we got Dean, who just turned 12, and this is the late 1960s. We're introduced to his family. We have his mother, Lillian, who is intelligent, because the basic breakdown is getting to know everyone within the family. And nowadays it's securing the bag, but back in the day it was securing your bag. Like, what's the thing you want to be known for? His sister Kim, is popular. She's a cheerleader. His father, sorry, throat isn't sore, but kind of got dry for a second. Dean's father, Bill, is a talented music professor and musician in his own right. And then on top of that, we have the mother, Lillian. I forgot, I skipped over. Intelligent. We see, some college degrees, and it looks like, one of her roles in the show is kind of like an assistant to the boys soccer team, and they even work together too. The coach and the mother. And we also learn that Dean has an older brother who's in Vietnam, which kind of mirrors, if I'm not mistaken, Winnie Cooper's older brother, who was in Vietnam but actually died in the pilot of the show, if I remember correctly. And from there, the episode starts off with the fact that Dean's riding on his bicycle through town, and his dad's song made it on the radio. So he gets home, and we noticed, and he notices his sister in somebody's car, making out with a boy. At first, I thought his surprise reaction was at the fact that my sister's making out with somebody, but no, it's actually the fact, Dad, your song's on the radio. So he goes into the house. His parents are loving it, but I love the fact that his father's catchphrase is "Be cool." Whenever something big's happening, when Dean rushes in, his mom like, you go, what are you doing, Dean? You going to just storm into this house, not greeting anybody? And he's on the radio trying to get the song on and everything, and that's a big deal. I mean, your song on the radio, of course, royalties and everything. But we go over to the next morning. After we've already had this little brief introduction to Dean's family, we learn about the different quirks and things like that. Obviously the parents are pushing for Kim to go to school because the fact that Lillian's like, hey, you need to get the prep book to study for the SATs, and she doesn't really want to go to school, but both her parents did. And then it's a debate about whether or not she should go to a black college versus a non-black college. But either way, Dean, who's about to start junior high, is nervous because he needs glasses, and he has them, but being in middle school with glasses pretty much makes you fodder for being bullied. So from there, he has his glasses, but when he gets on the bus, he takes them off, and he really can't see that well because somebody's waving at him, but it's actually the person behind him to come sit with him. But we meet his buddy Corey, who is the son of the baseball coach on the bus. They're chilling, they're catching up and everything. And apparently he had like a growth spurt over the summer. So, he was pretty popular with the ladies. And I guess you could say Dean is the geek compared to his friend, which is kind of a flip from the Wonder Years, where I think both Kevin and Paul was like the tall nerdy guy with the glasses and everything. So it's almost like Dean is obviously the Kevin of this story, but he has the quirks of Paul. And then you have Corey, who, well, I mean, he had some notable girls throughout the series, not just Winnie Cooper, but he wasn't like a popular dude. So I'd say Corey definitely got some of those cool, traits and whatnot that, Dean wished he had. So, his crush gets on the bus Keisha, but of course Lisa Jones gets on the bus first, and that's like the girl everybody has a crush on, but Keisha's the girl that Dean really likes. And it turns out they're pretty friendly with each other. They both have an interest in comic books. I almost flipped when I saw that she handed him his Avengers comic book, and she was like, yeah, you're right, it was a great comic. And Corey's like, dude, why don't you tell her how much you like her and stuff like that? It's like, well, we're friends, and I just want to make her fall for me, so I'm not going to say anything. So there's a guy in the back of the bus that tries to touch her, and she puts him in a headlock until he apologizes. So from there we go over to the school, and remember, this was desegregation era, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the proper word to use, where whites and blacks went to the same school. And little moments from the trailer, like Corey, a black kid drinking from the water fountain, led to two white students looking on in disgust and walking the other way. But Brad greets them at school, and Brad is the white friend of the group, and pretty much teases Dean about the whole Keisha situation. Hey, have you told her how you felt yet? How you feel about her yet? And from there he goes on to say how, you know what, I'm going to be the great uniter, and I want black and white students to play baseball together. Both Brad and Corey are like, wait, what? Like, obviously they're a blended friend group, but it's like, all right, well, Corey's going to talk to his dad, who's the coach of the black team, and then Brad's going to talk to his coach on the white team and see if it could be like, a black versus white, baseball game. So it's going to be a situation where, Corey's dad says, no, why you want to play with the white kids? And then, Dean's mom is in a similar situation, but she did go on to say that, what, black kids are going to grow up feeling like it's going to be black versus white their entire lives. So we might as well prepare them for it now by just having, like a friendly game until they get out into the world of, business and working and being adults. And that's a very valid point, especially for that era. That's not to say that kind of thing doesn't happen now, but I feel like back in the 60s, obviously it wasn't as a melting pot as it is now in society. So that was a very well thought out plea from Dean. And so from there, he'll talk to Brad's coach, and the coach makes him take 3 laps around the field for coming to practice early. And from that moment we go to class, and Dean's, being overzealous, friendly to all the white students, and Corey's like, hey, Black Jesus, tone it down a bit, be cool. Well, he doesn't say be cool, but just ease on down a bit. So Corey has his glasses on, and then of course you got the bigger black dude in the back making fun of him for it. Then Corey snaps back at him. Then one of the white students says to the teacher, somebody said yo mama. And then from there, I just love Dean's dialogue, or I'm just going to say Don Cheadle's dialogue about how, I don't know if my teacher was racist, but she seemed to only really favor the black students who looked like they had potential. So it's one of those situations where it's like, you're one of the good ones, so I'll give you extra attention and whatnot. But from there, there's a moment between him and Keisha, between his eyeglasses and her pantyhose, so that was pretty funny in itself. So when Dean goes out in the hallway, he tries to befriend the bully, again, being the uniter. It's not just getting along with white people, but let's be honest here, not to get too personal, but when I think back, I feel like most of the hardships in my life was caused more so by black people than white people, just by how some people who are black treat you. It's like the bully's like, oh yeah, you think you're white, you carry a lunchbox and whatnot, and then what was it? one of his boys held back Corey, then the bully beat up Dean, and then Brad was stuffed in a locker, and then they got mad at Dean. It's like, man, why'd you try to talk to him? You know, you ain't going to get along with everybody. So when they get home, when Dean gets home, he tries to tell his dad about the game. I think that him and his mother were dancing, and, you know, he was like, you know what, there's this piece of jewelry, you're looking at it, and he mentioned, you know, that royalty check is big, but it's the first of many, so it's cool. It really is cool, or should I say, be cool. So Dean talks about the big game coming up, and his dad doesn't want black versus white, you know, to happen. And Dean says no, because his dad's like, well, you're not playing in the game. And then, you know, like every black person or black parent is like, did you just say no? Are you out of your mind? And I think there's like a running gag of stay out of grown folks' business. Whenever he asks a question like, wait a minute, why is my dad jealous of my mom whenever she's talking with the coach because the coach has a thing for, you know, my mom or something like that? But he makes the point like, you know, he feels kind of lost in the world. It's just the fact that everybody knows their place, but I feel out of place everywhere I go. School, but being with my friends, you know, black and white, that's like one of the few times I feel like I belong, so I want to play in the game. But, you know, like any black father, it's like, fine, do what you want to. But then they'll eventually come around, because we go over to the game itself. You know, everybody's come together, you know, shaking hands. It's like a great sign of unity. Even the bully gives the black person head nod to Dean. I guess that's out of respect for what he, you know, saw Dean do. But he says in the narration, he was just there to steal Brad's bike. So the game starts, and, you know, of course his dad shows up, you know, to, cheer on his son. And the big debate of the episode is the fact that every time Dean goes up to bat, it's a debate between Coach Long and Dean's dad about what he should do. And every time it messes up Dean's game, so he always gets struck out. So as the debate happens, you have the coach versus Bill, until Lillian comes down from the stand, because they really get into it, not physically, but, you know, they have a back and forth banter that's loud. And Lillian's like, I know y'all know better than this, to act this ignorant in front of white people. And I love what Don Cheadle said about that's like the universal statement of black people. It doesn't matter like what status or class you are of black person, but if somebody calls you out for that, you know not to act ignorant in front of white people. So a white couple actually comes over, and it's like, you know, at first I'm like, oh man, it must be something like, are you really doing this in front of our son? Like we thought, you know, I thought it would be white people saying how black people were acting a certain way. But he said, you know, the husband, I believe, was like, well, I thought you all knew, you know, was this about Dr. King getting shot? Because, you know, obviously the black people going back and forth, they thought it was in relation to that. And that's the moment the game stopped and everything came to a halt. And if I remember correctly, in the premiere of the Wonder Years, you know, Kevin, I think his brother was acting like a major asshole. And I think that Kevin like threw some food in the cafeteria at his brother, but it actually hit one of the administrators. And then, you know, his father got called to the principal's office, and Kevin wasn't apologizing or something. And his dad was... he had like, I'm going to whoop your ass when we get home. But then the news got back about Winnie's brother dying in Vietnam, and that was the moment that stopped everything. But in this show, it was, you know, Martin Luther King's getting shot. So then we go over to that night where everything had calmed down. You know, Coach Long and his, I think, wife is over at Dean's house, and, you know, they're all watching the news, and his mother's doing laundry. And then the news broke that Martin Luther King was actually assassinated, like he died from the shooting. So when Dean tells his mom, you know, she's doing the folding laundry, and, you know, even Don Cheadle's like, to this day I don't understand what my mom was doing. But, you know, my interpretation was it was disbelief. It was like, you know, let me do something that's normal because I don't want to accept the fact that MLK was shot. So it felt like, you know, that scene from the Ten Commandments, you know, when death came down to go through the houses that weren't marked by lamb's blood. And, you know, in Moses' house, the house that Moses and all of his people were in, you heard the screams throughout the town of the mourning going on, you know, with people finding dead people within the house. It felt like that because one of the neighbors actually, you know, shouted, and Dean's father was talking to the coach like, hey, let's go check on Miss So-and-so. So they leave. Then Dean gets on his bike to, you know, ride to meet up with some friends, because it was earlier established in the episode their older school that got shut down due to desegregation and whatnot. Some of the kids go there to hang out, talk about girls, make out and whatnot. So when Dean gets there, he actually sees through the fence that Corey and Keisha are making out. So from there, he puts on his glasses, gets on his bicycle, and goes back home. So it was kind of interesting to me because his whole thing was not wearing glasses to not be, you know, made fun of. But as the episode progressed, especially during the ending of the MLK stuff, he mentioned how he didn't really see, you know, what was going on or understood. But I loved it because when he saw them making out, he's like, now I see why people are angry. And he put his glasses on, because I feel like him putting the glasses on was kind of like a symbolism of Dean getting a new perspective on life. So for me, I thought this was a strong pilot. It did a great job of establishing the characters. And yeah, I really liked the show. I have no problem with it, and I can't wait to see episode 2 in a couple of days. And hopefully I'll have the review out quicker than obviously a couple days beforehand. But let me know your thoughts on the one-year premiere. It's only like 23 minutes long. I think it's harmless, you know, if you just sit down and catch it on Wednesday nights. I mean, for me, I just watch it on abc.com, and you know, I loved it from that. So do you want me to keep reviewing the show? I'm pretty sure I will, because I like it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you in the next one.